to the JohnAge Project.
Trust no one. Trust no one. Trust no one.
JohnAge, happy to be back with you once again in the dark side of the AM. Thank you ever so much for being with us this evening and continuing our conversation. Please check out AnomicAge.com. If you've not already done so, please like all the likes, subscribe to all the subscriptions, paypal.me/AnomicAge, patreon.com/AnomicAge as well. Those are the best ways to support me, to find the show, and to do everything else you need to do to follow along with the at-home version of the game. That is, you can get the iPhone app, the Android app, subscribe by email link. It's all right there at AnomicAge.com. I hope and pray that I'm reaching a much larger audience this evening than I typically do. I got to have a whole litany of thank yous in a moment, but please check out AnomicAge.com. If you're new to this program, if you're new to me, there's so much more on that website than you're ever going to see on the usual suspect social medias. I got back onto YouTube about 8 months ago after being kicked off for multiple years and losing everything there. So you'll see the full back catalog, ridiculous guests, tons of coverage of topics over the last 5 years. So what you're listening to right now is indeed an information breakdown segment. And I am indeed your humble host, JohnAge, in the AnomicAge. So before I get ahead of things, I want to thank a lot of people out there. Thank you so much to John at Truckers United for Freedom. Let me move you right over there, John. TruckersUnitedForFreedom.com. You can find that broadcast there. Thank you so much to John for allowing me to be on Truckers United for Freedom for a couple years now. I'll still be on there as far as I know. Thank you so much, John, for that. More to the point, thank you so much to Eddie. Let me pull you over here a little bit, Eddie. To Eddie at Patriots. The Patriots, excuse me. ThePatriotsPrayer.com. ThePatriotsPrayer.com. I'm sorry, I'm new to this broadcasting network. ThePatriotsPrayer.com. Thank you so much, Eddie. Thank you so much to all those folks over there that have allowed me to be part of this broadcast. I'm going to usually be coming at you Tuesday and Thursday, 11:30 to 12:30 in the evening. But tonight, I was just itching to get on here and just kind of do a trial run. So here I am, and there you are. So let's dive into the deep end of the pool, shall we? We got a tremendous amount of information to get into this evening. We'll start things off with the obvious. Hopefully you like the graphics, brought to you by yours truly. Protect normal kids. That is indeed the title of tonight's episode, and it is an indeed well-placed thumb in the nose of the Lieutenant Governor of Minnesota. So, Lieutenant Governor of Minnesota, all too happy to wear a Protect Trans Kids shirt a couple years back. I'm going to get into all that in just a moment, but I couldn't resist, folks. I could not resist. Protect normal kids. And that's going to be the crux of tonight's episode. But let's hit the highlights, or dare I say, the lowlights of what's actually going on. So we'll start with across the pond. So across the pond, you're going to see, from a couple days ago, this was all the news du jour, from Scotland, we had a 14-year-old girl protecting her younger sister who was 12. This was in Dundee, Scotland. And I had to post this article while we were talking this evening because it was just so absurd. This from the Yahoo News, the UK variety, that is. We got police in Scotland issue a misinformation warning. Misinformation after 12-year-old charged in Dundee. So I'm still trying to figure out what the misinformation of this article actually was. Was it the fact that it wasn't a 12-year-old, but it was a 14-year-old? Because it's just hilarious to me that they're calling it misinformation. Let me put the big one on the screen for you, though, because this is what's so stupid. This is a quote from the article, of course. It's clear that elements of the far right are attempting to hijack this incident to spread racism and anti-immigration agenda. I'm really still unclear on what the misinformation is. So, yes, a 14-year-old girl protected her younger sister by brandishing basically a hatchet and a knife to some scumbags that were following her and her sister around. And this wasn't an isolated incident. This is the norm. This is the norm all across the pond, don't you know? Because the clash of civilization model, the Cloward and Piven knockoff, is working all too swimmingly across the pond. In Europe, of course, Spain, Italy, France, Germany, the like, and assuredly in the UK. And that's exactly what was going on, folks. You're seeing young girls particularly, but also young boys too, hassled by these migrant gangs that are all too happy to just show up and whisk your children away to never be seen from again, or even worse, have them molested, raped, fondled, killed, and the like. So basically, this 14-year-old chick had just had enough, so she dared to do the impossible. She dared to brandish a weapon at the bow down to kiss the proverbial foot of the migrants. And what migrants might you be saying, John? We're talking about the usual suspects, folks. The Muslim migrants from every third world bleep hole south of Greece have been invited, welcomed in, ushered in to all parts of Europe to do exactly what I said before. Clash of Civilizations model. It is a Cloward and Piven tactic. It's to weaken all infrastructures, flood the native populations with hostile migrants, and basically snuff out every element, essence, and dare I say, cornerstone of the culture that once was the great European cultures of Europe. So that's really what's going on. That's what's going on there across the pond. But wait, there's more, because you're thinking, yo, John, you can't be talking about that without talking about this. And of course I'm not. So we got to talk about this too, which is the news du jour topic of El Dia. This would be, let me get you in reader view because I don't like all this mess on the screen any more than you do. Minnesota school shooting gunman. What did they misgender this person? Gunman kills 2 children, injures 17 others during Catholic Mass at the Annunciation Catholic Church in Minnesota, Minneapolis, Minnesota, to be specific, folks. And I don't even know exactly where to kick things off here because there's so many different avenues to go down. But I'm just going to give you the broad strokes of this, and we'll try to show you a little videos here at the end. But that's the broad strokes of it. So let me give you the real. Let me switch over here. On to real, this is what we got. This is Robert, because I'm not going to do this nonsense. This was Robert Paul Westman, 28 years old. Changed his name to Robin when he was 17. So it's that creature that did the shooting. That's who we're looking at here, Robert. And it just gets worse, really, because let me see if I can pull things down. There we go. Let's go another one here. This is Robert's mom, Mary Grace Westman, who also worked at, you guessed it, the Catholic Church that old dear Robert was doing the shooting. This is very reminiscent of at least the initial reports of the dreaded Sandy Hook. Can we even say it without getting deplatformed? Sandy Hook, where they initially reported that if that, don't even say it, John, don't say it. If that individual even existed, first reports was that his mom was also working at the school. But then if you look at any reporting now, it says, oh, no, you've been misinformed. Who knows? Who knows what there is to believe? I know there's a whole litany not to believe about the Sandy Hook incident, but I digress. Let's not mix apples and oranges here. So what else we got? We got this in the manifesto, and I really want to do a whole nother show on this, and perhaps I shall tomorrow when I will conversate with you again at around 11:30. So, nevertheless, so much has been obfuscated already. It appears, and I say appears because I'm still waiting for the other shoe to drop, pun intended, if you know the shoe's connection to the Sandy Hooks and all the other shootings. Nevertheless, so it appears that this individual was, as usual, on the FBI's radar. So the real question begs, as it does always with the FBI, why did you allow this to happen? But maybe we'll be proven wrong in days to come. After all, it all begins to ooze out by the second day or more, right? Kind of like the Uvalde shooting, just all kinds of info oozed out there. But I digress. Let's show you on the big screen here. This is part of the manifesto that all the alphabet soup agencies, I guess, didn't get the word to scrub until the not-so-mainstream media already pulled it. So this is part of the manifesto. And I'm not going to show you the video, but part of the manifesto was a little like this. In case you don't understand, that is indeed a church. You got the cross, you got the pulpit, you got the pews, you got the exits marked, and you've even got... You've even got the narthex, I suppose, that would be in the back there. So that's all the usual suspects that you would find in a church. And if you watch the manifesto video, which is, I don't even know if it's disturbing so much as it is just pathetic, juvenile, and silly. It reminds me of an old episode of Unsolved Mysteries where there was some giddy, obviously mentally deranged adolescent that was setting abandoned houses that were, I guess, new construction homes on fire. And someone found the VHS footage, and it was some boob watching these houses burn and just sort of giddily mocking in the background and saying all this nonsense. So if you have the stomach to listen to this trivial BS of the manifesto, it'll sound just like that. It's just like some gibbering moron talking about how he wants to kill himself and kill everybody else and blah, 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 blah. Whatever. I guess that's the manifesto, allegedly. But what we're seeing right here, right now, to bring a little Van Halen into the mix, is his imagery from the manifesto. And in the video, he stabs deliberately and with menacing sounds. He stabs this image of the church. And it goes on to talk about how he wants to kill, and die. And I don't even know. It's just total nonsense. So if we are to believe that that is legitimate and that is him, then yeah. He seemed to have a pretty clear target. And I was going to pull these images up, but I did not. You can pull these up all over social media. Basically going through what was written all over his firearms. And the Minneapolis police chief did indicate that, oh yes, he was recently permitted to purchase said firearms, and they're legal firearms. Oh boy. So anyway, I guess he got all Sharpie happy and got a white Sharpie and drew all over his firearms. Something about 6 million wasn't enough. If you look through the video of his manifesto, there's some other clear Jewish references in there. Somebody online saying that a lot of this is written in Russian. I don't know if that's legit or not. I don't speak nor write Russian, so I don't know. But that's the going theory, don't you know? Anyway, something to the effect of kill Trump, 6 million's not enough. all this lunatic trans mess everywhere. So that is the bread and butter of this type of imbecile. And that's exactly what you would expect from this nonsense. So, good grief. Of course, I managed to spill something here on the first show on the PPN network. So let's roll through a little bit more. I got some more. I was going to actually read this to you from this book, but I'm going to put it on the screen and read it to you. So I'm a big fan of anthropology and sociology and even a lot of psychology. So those of you new to the show, you'll figure these things out about me as we go. But this is a lovely book. I always, well, I don't always, but I quite often reference this. I've mentioned it many times on the show, but even held it up and read from it, probably these exact same words. It's called the Encyclopedia of Sociology, and it came out in 1974. I'm a sucker for old books because as long as you actually got the hard copy, they can't scrub it from the internet. So let's put this on the screen, and I'll do a little reading for you. Deviance can be defined as behavior that is contrary to the standards of conduct or social expectations of a given group or society. In its widest sense, it is a generic term referring to the activities described in such conventional expressions as cheating, crime, addiction, alcoholism, immorality, and sexual perversion. These words, I swear, I'm sorry, I don't have my glasses on, connote a departure by individuals from accepted standards of conduct of the group. You would think I'd have this memorized by now because I've read it quite often on this show. Because part and parcel, folks, we're looking at deviance in society. I realize that the mainstream media is already going above and beyond to criticize guns. And I hazard a guess that this was all a big frame-up to further paint the victims as the Jews. But I think I'm going to get into that on tomorrow's episode. First, we're just going to broad stroke it today. Because here's a little connect the dots in case you missed it. Let's go to this one, big screen. This is just a rundown of some of the recent shooters, the last 4 that is, that are obviously trans. Colorado Springs shooter identifies as non-binary. What the? Denver shooter identifies as trans. Aberdeen shooter identifies as trans. Nashville shooter identifies as, say it with me, class, trans. Have we picked up on a theme yet? Have we identified a theme yet? Just thinking, I think we have, but I'm not quite sure. So let's go another one big screen because you are dying to see more pictures of these lovely individuals. Let's go here. This is Minnesota's lieutenant governor and state rep. That's these 2 boobs. So we got a chick saying protect trans kids with a spooky knife and rose. Good grief. And then we've got whatever that other thing is to the right of that individual. So we can come at this through so many different lenses. I'm going to come at it through the cultural lens, the sociological, psychological lens, because that's the problem. The problem is, quite obviously, that we no longer stigmatize, demonize, or delegitimize deviance in our society in any way, shape, form, or fashion or otherwise. We just don't, folks. There's no such thing as deviance in our society anymore. There's just not. It's sickening. It's disgusting. It's downright nauseating. Because there was once a time, not too long ago, I'm going into Bon Jovi lyrics, but I'm trying not to, that we actually did have deviance in our society. But not anymore. Because now we've fallen under the Frankfurt School. We've fallen under the cultural relativism promulgated by Columbia University by none other than Franz Boas, the first big American anthropologist. Yeah, he got all that from the Frankfurt School too, from Frankfurt, Germany, don't you know? all this critical theory, the critical theory of race, the critical theory of gender, the critical theory of anything you can possibly be critical of, so as to frame everyone as a victim and everyone else as a victimizer. So through that lens, you can't even have deviance anymore because it's all relative, bruh. Don't you know? That's the deal. So here we are, year of our Lord 2025, and we have no deviance anymore because no one has the temerity, courage, or dare I say balls, not to be confused with walls, to actually stand up to this filth and do the obvious, folks. Do the blippin' obvious. Can I put it on the screen again? Protect normal kids. So since we fail to protect normal kids, the byproduct of that failure is what you see today. And is what you've seen quite often all over the place. We fail to protect normal kids. Okay? So as Americans, we fail to protect the kids in the womb. I mean, Roe versus Wade, what, all the way back in 1974, 73, I believe? And it's still not off the books. We've just kicked it down the road to the states. So we're still murdering in the name of progressivism, in the name of tolerance, in the name of healthcare. We're murdering children still. Your taxpayer dollars are funding it. So we're still failing to protect kids. We're not doing it. But wait, there's more, because this whole thing just oozes out like so much creepy. Because not only do we fail to protect children in the womb, but we fail to protect the children in the schools. Because what have we seen in the last 10 years? All over the place. Ever since the Barry Soetoro regime, we've seen this agenda push further and further and further. Bleep sakes, even Bill Clinton wasn't for this nonsense. Even Bill Clinton didn't want gays in the military. But we got Barack Hussein Obama, better known as Barry Soetoro, bringing us gay marriage under the guise and auspice of let's just be tolerant. Let's just be caring. It's just love. It's love versus love. It's all love, right? Let's just be tolerant. So that let the camel in the tent flap. So from there, then it was open season on the normal kids. Because then you had drag queen story time. And that wasn't enough, because it wasn't enough that you had drag queen story time at the public libraries. Then we had to incentivize it by pushing it into the schools. Then you had drag queens coming into schools reading to the kids. Then you had, Sarah Has Two Mommies and all sorts of other pornographic material on the gay, trans, and otherwise pedophilic lifestyles promulgated by the usual suspect criminals over the last 20 years. Again, failing to protect normal kids. So when you fail to protect normal kids, they become victims too. They turn out like this joker. Rob. Or Robin if you're nasty. They turn out like Robin, who wants to change his name when he's 17. From Robert to Robin. This sort of mental sickness infiltrates the psyche of the populace, of the culture. It's a culture war, in case you didn't figure that out, folks. It's a culture war. So if you want to sit on the sidelines and peacefully twiddle your thumbs and whistle past the graveyard and watch it all go by, then that's on you. But win, lose, or draw non-violently, we've got to protect normal kids from becoming like old Rob here. Because it abso-smurfly is a cultural war. And I'm not condoning, calling for, or otherwise promoting any violence. So don't get me on that nonsense. I'm going non-violence all the way. Which is more than I can say for the other side. Because this is not any incidences of normal kids just going trigger happy on a group of trannies, going trigger happy at a drag queen story time. No, this is not the norm. Not at all. It's quite the inversion of the norm. So we fail to stand up for the kids in the womb. We fail to protect our kids in the classroom. We fail to protect our kids in the library. And in case you missed it, we're failing to protect the kids on the streets because every June we got to deal with Gay Pride Month or Tranny Awareness Month, where all over the place they've got these parades of nude people out there shaking their money makers, if you want to call it that. And the kids have to be subjected to this filth. But wait, there's more, because it's also infiltrated every television show, every movie, every song. It's everywhere, folks. It's everywhere. This is the normalization of deviance. Hence, what I said a moment ago, folks. We don't have deviance anymore. We just don't. We do not have deviance anymore. Our whole society has become deviant. Look at the definition up there again. Sexual perversion. What in the world do you think that is, folks? That would be the not so silent P, part of the LGBT? That would be all of the above in the alphabet soup. Malaise there. That would be the inversion of the covenant of Noah into the representation of some sort of alternative lifestyle to more further indoctrinate kids into it. Absolutely. We are failing to protect the normal kids. And as a byproduct, the normal kids become Rob. The normal kids become the obese person with a butch haircut, a big nose ring, and purple hair. I mean, these become stereotypes, but the stereotypes exist for a reason. Oh, my goodness gracious, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, humans of all ages, those of you who still identify as human. It's a wide world out there, folks. It is a disturbing world out there. Let's roll into some clips, because I know somebody's dying to see the clips, right? I'll start you off with the quite humorous. This is Nebraska Senator McHale's Kavanaugh. Can we bring this up on the screen? I don't want to, but I feel that we must. This is going to be my ringtone, but go ahead and listen to this. It's going to be terrible.
Trans people belong here. We need trans people. We love trans people. Trans people belong here. We need trans people. We love trans people. Trans people belong here.
This is real life, folks. This is a Nebraska senator having some sort of fit, having some sort of psychotic episode, having some sort of conniption. Yeah, you can find this online, and you can make it your ringtone too, because it'll be real fun. I'm pretty sure.
Trans people belong here. We need trans people. We love trans people. You matter.
Imagine the amount of insane virtue signaling that these people are trying to get on. I mean, this is totally bonkers, isn't it? Absolutely bonkers. I don't know what in the devil's going on here. Absolutely bonkers. Yeah. Nebraska senator. That was it. But wait, there's also much more, because I know people want to see this kind of stuff. It's entertaining. I mean, it's nauseating, but it's wild. Let's see this one. This is, I'm just trying to set these clips up for you because it's so insane. This is Senator, I almost said it. This is Senator Walls. No, I'm sorry. This is Governor Walls. I'm getting the senators and the governors confused because they all look like a bunch of nutheads. This is Balls. And this is the same guy that said he's had these great conversations with these shooters in another video. But this is him signing in the trans refugee state status. There's really nothing to say here. I'm just going to play this, and we're going to look at this cast of characters. This is him saying that he's making Minnesota a trans refugee state. And the cast of characters around this guy, I mean, Sesame Street pales in comparison to these fruit bats. I mean, good night, nurse, folks. I have no earthly idea what we're looking at here. I mean, I try my best to be a Christian man and to not get up here and just blast people with not just making fun of people. But it's difficult when you see this cast of utter freaks, and you're supposed to go along with it. And you're supposed to accept it, and it's just not normal, folks. It's not. It is deviance. We are a Christian nation, or at least we once were, and that means that we should follow some basic tenets of decorum and Christendom. And I'm sorry, but trans is not one of them. And it's disgusting and appalling and just downright revolting that we have doctors across this nation cutting the forearms up of women so that they can somehow put on a man-made phallus that will never function and will most likely become necrotic and fall off on these females. And equally disturbing when they're cutting off the male genitalia from the males. I've done shows on this in the past. I'm not going to get into it this evening, but it's just nauseating. But again, this is part and parcel of the norms of our society now because we have no deviance. Because we've allowed this to occur. We have allowed these things to go unchecked, folks. It's just disgusting. So, let's see if we can pull this one up. This is the police chief of Minneapolis. Let's pull it up.
Possible motive and a relationship to the church or to the school. I have no information to share on a motive other than saying again that there was some sort of manifesto that was timed to come out on YouTube. It's been taken down and our investigators are going through that to try and develop a motive from that. Additionally, there are these 3 search warrants happening in residential locations, and we may very well, find more information or writings that could give some sense to that, but we don't have that now. And I cannot confirm a relationship between the suspect or his family and this church at this time, but that's obviously something we're looking very closely at.
Okay, folks. Yeah, that was more of the same there. I don't know what the devil is going on there. But no motive. We can't figure out a motive for what's going on. It's really pretty wild. The police chief, can't seem to figure out stuff that just everyday people on social media have figured out for quite a while. So, I don't know, folks. I don't know what to tell you. The police chief can't seem to figure out what's going down. That's all I can say. But, that's how it is. That's just what's going down. So, it's just so disturbing, folks. Once again, protect normal kids. That's really what this boils down to. Protecting normal kids from these predators, from these scumbags that are clearly targeting children. They've been targeting children for quite some time. Over here, it's been primarily in the institutions. And across the pond, it's a different sect. It's the Muslims primarily targeting children, where you have the rape gangs, where you have them kidnapping children off the streets, just all sorts of atrocities. So whether or not you're here in the United States or across the pond, it's really the same thing. It's protect normal kids, folks. So the American people and the people of the world at large have got to actually start protecting the children from this filth. I don't know what else to say. I don't know how much clearer anybody can say it. Because every man, especially, should have just a normal inclination to protect children, to protect kids. Because after all, they are the next generation. They are the most precious things in this world. These are the people that can't defend themselves against this type of predator. Whether or not we're talking about the Muslim scum across the pond and here, or whether or not we're talking about these commie politicians, or really they're just satanic cult members under the guise of communists, progressives, liberals, and the like. So whatever whatever nice little bow you want to put on the basket is really irrelevant, because the problem remains the same. Protect normal kids. That's what really has to be done. I mean, again, hats off for this 14-year-old kid in Scotland for actually standing up to her would-be attackers, her and her sister's would-be attackers. I mean, it's so sad, sickening, and just nauseating that it takes a kid over there in Scotland where, of course, you can't have guns. So she's basically doing what she can to defend herself and her sister from this sort of scum. It's just pathetic that you're seeing children doing what the men folk should be doing, standing up to the scum. It's really mind-blowing. It's unbelievable that this is kind of the world that we live in now, where we have no deviance, where we are told that we must accept everything under the auspice of naughty, naughty, the nanny state's coming for you if you dare to step out of orthodoxy. And I was going to cover this on tomorrow's show, but we might as well get into it a little bit tonight, because this seems to be, you could look at this through multifaceted lenses here. So you could look at this as, okay, this was an attack on the church, an attack on the Christendom. That's kind of self-evident, although the police chief can't seem to figure that out. You know, he's sitting there scratching his head like, I don't know what's going on. There seems to be no motive. Okay, well, his manifesto's got him stabbing an image of a church where he's clearly laying out a map of a church, and he goes in and shoots up a church. I mean, this is just, it would be comical if it wasn't so revolting and just sad. So if the shoe was on the other foot somehow, if it was some scary lone white guy, it was a lone white guy, and he went there and shot up a Muslim area, then it would be just no holds barred, hate crime, this horrible cracker bleep, you know, he's gone in and shot up a church, and it's unbelievable. But now we just can't seem to find a motive. I mean, we can't seem to point out the 4 trans people that I just did 20 minutes ago, and the clear connections between the mental illness, most likely SSRIs. I mean, that's just a given. Like I said on last night's show, everybody's got some mental problem now. That's just the norm. So whether or not you're on prescription drugs, whether or not you're just smoking weed and drinking, whether it's hallucinogenic class, whatever it is, the whole blipping world seems to be stuck on stupid and all too happy to just inundate themselves with every prescription drug, non-prescription drug known to man to either medicate from the cult of pharmakia or self-medicate through the non-so prescription route. So we're thinking very, very minimal here, bare minimum. Old Rob is definitely on some antipsychotics. Just thinking here. He's probably, I got one more video. I wasn't even going to show this one, but we might as well. Because here's Rob reading a manual of some sort. Let's put this on the big screen, because this is perhaps more disturbing than the other ones. Good grief. Here's Rob again. Let's hit it.
Today I'm going to be reading the Amana electric dryer user manual. Dryer safety. Your safety and the safety of others are very important. We have provided many important safety messages in this manual and on your appliance.
Yeah, I mean, Rob seems like a good guy, doesn't he? Seems like he's got all his cards in a row. He seems perfectly normal to me. I don't know what you're talking about. But somehow, old Rob here was able to get some guns. You know, like the background just to get a gun is so ridiculous. You would think when there's some sort of individual that clearly has a mental disorder, a.k.a. Rob, posing as Robin with pigtails, dressed as a woman, got his nails all painted up in the whole 9 yards, you would think that wherever old Robbie Rob was purchasing these firearms would have taken one look at him and said, hey, this might not be the guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, this might not be the guy that needs to have a weapon or 3 or 2 or whatever it is. I mean, I don't know. Call me crazy, but I would say he's probably not playing with a full deck. Just probably not. So we've got that angle. So we've got either everybody's an incompetent boob, or that old Rob is just, I mean, good night, man. It's so hard to not get up on here and just get kicked off another social media site. So I'm not going to do that. But I mean, I think we all see what Rob's putting down here. So there's that angle. It's the going to kill the Christians, blah, blah, blah. The other angle that I was going to cover a little bit tomorrow, and I probably still will, is that it was all a setup to further victimize the Jews. Oh my gracious goodness sakes alive. I should have pulled these images up because he had Jews written on a couple of his weapons. He had 6 million wasn't enough. Obviously a wink and a nod to the Holocaust numbers, however accurate they are, sure. So clearly I think one of the optics of this, and perhaps the mainstream media was not able to just seize upon this quickly enough because the alt media was able to push the narrative quicker than the mainstream on this one. Hats off to that. But it's quite obvious that one of the optics on this was the Jews. Because I guarantee if the mainstream media was able to push this quick enough, they would have somehow framed dear old Rob as, in fact, Rob and not Robin. They would have somehow construed Rob as some sort of terrible white nationalist. Oh, my gracious goodness sakes alive. Shriek, rend garments, gnash teeth. It's Oklahoma City and Ruby Ridge all over again, I tell you. But somehow, that just didn't work out. So, in my humble opinion, that was one of the alternate optics that they were trying to pull on this whole thing. But were unable to get the cat out of the bag fast enough. So, in fact, we've got Robin instead of dear old Rob. I'm sure they would have found some picture of Rob, with a buzz cut from 10 years ago or something. Jeepers creepers, man. Just like they did, what was that one that they did, the kid, oh man, I'm blanking on his name. The kid that did the shooting that they kept showing pictures of him in high school and stuff. Good grief. What the heck was that kid? I'm blanking on the whole thing. He was in Florida, the Zimmerman case. Let's see. I'm blanking on Trayvon Martin. There we go. Thank goodness I was able to get it out there. Dear old Trayvon Martin. I remember during the throes of that fiasco, they kept showing pictures of Trayvon in like middle school or something. And they just neglected to tell the boob content consumers of the general public that dear old Trayvon wasn't exactly a little humble middle schooler with his big smile and happy little face. No, that wasn't dear old Trayvon any longer. It was Trayvon, the weed smoking, gangster rap listening to, trolling around, robbing people. That was the new and improved Trayvon that they just didn't want to get that cat out of the bag. But nevertheless, that's my thoughts and opinions and otherwise on some of the optics that we probably didn't see and probably won't see now. I believe it was definitely a push to further demonize those terrible people that would dare persecute the Jews. And we can look no further to the obvious mess I've covered the last 3 weeks, where we have Janine Pirro saying we're going to get those anti-Semites, I tell you. We're going to root them out. They're the biggest scourge on the whole planet. So we got that. We got, of course, Palantir, which is nothing more than an Israeli front group run by Peter Thiel, golden parachute giver to J.D. Vance or whatever he was calling himself at the time of working for Palantir. Yeah, that just so happened to be pushed in the big, beautiful bill. So I think they're definitely framing this whole thing up in a nice little package, just tying a bow tight for you to really pull out some surveillance state AI nonsense. And here's one that I haven't heard anyone talk about, because I heard, from the jump today, the narrative was, of course, the failure of the FBI, blah, 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 the usual suspect stuff. I mean, the FBI couldn't catch a cold in a blizzard, folks. They really couldn't. And it's not by accident. It's because that's what they do. Like, they allow things to happen. They set people up, and then they miraculously show up a day late and a dollar short and wring their hands, gnash their teeth, and look around going, which way did he go? Which way did he go? That's the usual FBI shtick, and SBI too, for that matter. But to that end, I do believe that the next thing with this is you're going to hear a whole lot of chatter on the social media about the incompetence of the FBI for, like time 100. And then we're going to hear a little bit of chatter coming up from the big techs going, the AI could have just snapped it right up. They could have got these people. And what you're going to gradually see over the rollout of probably a few years and some more false flags is that the humans just aren't man enough, pun intended, to stop these sorts of terroristic threats. What we really need is a lot more AI and a whole lot less human. So gradually you're going to see the human intel pulled out and the AI intel pushed in. And as usual, it'll be done for your safety, of course, because why not? So it's all going to be for your safety. It's all for the safety, and especially por los niños. It's all for the kids. All por los niños. So we're going to see a lot more of that, I predict anyway. If anything, this will be kind of a Bay of Pigs incident. And you'll see a lot more of these really showing up in the next few years, if not a lot sooner. And it'll all be, the culprit will be those dastardly humans, I tell you. They just can't get the job done anymore. They just can't do it. We need something better. We need something bigger. We need Peter Thiel. We need AI. We need Palantir. We need Doge. Doge, excuse me. You got to say Doge or you're not cool, right? Got to say Doge or you're not cool. Man. Yeah. So that's about what we're looking at here, folks. And I'm sure we'll see some more misinformation, disinformation, or dare I say just straight old propaganda coming out in the next few days here with this whole thing. It's sad, and it's sinister, and it's certainly not the last time we're going to see this sort of nonsense. So that's about all I got for you this evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, humans of all ages, those of you who still identify as human. Thanks ever so much for tuning in. Thank you ever so much. New listeners to the AnomicAge, if you are so inclined, check out AnomicAge.com. You can find all things me, a lot more shows than you have seen before. All right, folks, that's all for me tonight. I'll be seeing you tomorrow about 11:30 with any luck. You can't do everything, but you can do something. Be safe out there. I'll be seeing you sooner than later in the AnomicAge.
Thank you for listening to the AnomicAge, a JohnAge project. For past shows, further info, and to comment, go to AnomicAge.com. That's AnomicAge.com. Till next time, thank you for listening to the AnomicAge.
Over.